Rev up your engines!
Well, now Tesla has stopped taking new orders in China for 2 imported U.S.-made Tesla models. Some are made in the United States, some are made in China, some are in Germany. The vast majority of the ones sold in China are made in China. Their sales are going down, but now they're stopping new orders for these U.S. models. Now, Tesla makes Model 3 and Model Y in China, but last year, China imported 1,553 Model X's that were made in the U.S. and 311 Model S cars. So basically, yeah, they're not importing the spit in the bucket that they're not even hardly selling at all. 1,500 of one and 311 of another. It's more of a symbolic thing. A lot of this tariff stuff is turning into pure symbolism. That's less than 2,000 that they're not going to import a year. Who cares? Who really cares? You know, doesn't really make any difference. It's more a symbolic thing. Oh, the ultra-rich in China can't order a Model S anymore from the United States. Ooh, the world's going to come to an end. No, it isn't. It's all a bunch of symbolic stuff. But basically, Tesla's in big trouble. Their stock's dropping like a pfft. And the Chinese now, they're buying the stuff made in China. Not the stuff made in the United States anyway. They've already. GM lost a fortune last year. They had to write off billions for the Chinese stuff that they've given up with. At one point in time, the Chinese bought a whole bunch of Buicks. Now, they were Buicks made in China. They weren't made in the United States. But they're not even buying those anymore. So it isn't that the tariff has created a giant problem. It is merely increasing a problem that already existed, that the Chinese weren't buying this stuff in the first place much anyway. Well, old Mary Barra, the CEO of General Motors, her salary compensation increased in 2024. It's now $29.5 million. All right? Now, here's the hilarious thing. Most of it is bonuses, right? And you're supposed to get a bonus if your company does better. But GM had a net income of $6 billion in 2024. And you might think $6 billion, a lot of money, right? Well, guess what? In 2023, GM had a net profit of $10.1 billion. So their profit almost went in half, yet she's getting paid more money. And here's the hilarious thing. Her base salary is $2.1 million, which hasn't changed since 2017. So for the last 8 years, she's got the same base salary of $2.1 million. But the rest is based on financial performance and meeting strategic goals, right? What a load of horse manure. Strategic. The company went from $10 billion to $6 billion profit. And then I read some other articles where they tried to say GM made more money because they said GM made all this, not including these write-offs that the company took, right? For example, they took $1 billion write-off for the Chinese stuff because their sales in China have dropped out and they're dropping a bunch of Chinese stuff. So they lost a bunch of money. Well, let's see. She's the CEO of the company. Isn't she responsible for whether they make it a profit in a certain area or not, and where to build things and how many of them to build? I would think, as Harry Truman, the old president of the United States, had on his desk, the buck stopped here. He was the president, so he's like, I'm controlling this stuff. Well, she smiles and says how great everything is. The company went from $10 billion profit in 2023 to $6 billion in 2024, yet she's getting paid more money, and it's almost all based on compensation for did the company do well? It's absurd. It's patently absurd. The rich just keep handing it over to themselves, write the rules so and no matter what, they get paid more. Could you imagine if you were in charge of part of a business and the profit went from $10 billion to $6 billion? Do you think you would get paid even more, up to $29.5 million? I don't think so if the company was run correctly, but what can you say? It's GM. Dead from the neck up, as all corporations are. She's the head, so she certainly is dead. But she gets an awful lot of money for being dead. Well, Nissan just agreed to a CVT transmission class action lawsuit, and they settled it. Now, I've been warning people, don't buy these Nissans with CVTs. They are garbage, right? And so they reached a settlement where they're going to pay people money. But of course, they don't give you the actual figures of everything. And it looks to me like the lawyers are getting paid more than anything else. You can get reimbursed up to $5,000 or a $1,500 vehicle voucher from this class action suit. And as usual, the consumers get screwed over. Like I say, just don't buy these things in the first place. Those constantly variable transmissions that Jatco makes are absolute garbage. And today, Nissan is dumping the CVTs in a bunch of theirs and going back to regular, like 6-speed automatic transmissions, giving up on the CVTs. They're realizing it was a big mistake, right? Now, this includes 2015 to 18 Nissan Muranos with the CVTs and 2016 to 19 Nissan Maximos. Now, it doesn't include the hybrid models because, as I've explained to people over and over again, the electronic CVT transmissions are totally different than the CVT transmissions that are in gasoline-only cars. Listen to this. It's insane. You get a $1,500 voucher if you have experienced 2 or more CVT replacements during this time. You can get a $1,500 voucher that can be applied towards the purchase of a new Nissan or Infiniti. Now, why would you want to buy another one after you got screwed over in the first place? And all you're getting is a voucher for $1,500 if you had 2 or more of them replaced. What a load of baloney. Like I say, the lawyers get all the money. Then they make these ridiculous deals that why would you ever buy another one of these? And all you're getting is a $1,500 voucher for an expensive new car, right? But not even if your CVT went out once. It had to go out at least 2 times for you to get it. Why on earth would you buy another one of those piles of crap? And, they'll give you $1,500 for the next pile of crap, right? Only lawyers would write something like this, right? In the real world, the rest of us would just slap you in the face. What are you trying to do, screw me over? Which is, of course, what Nissan's been doing to their owners for an awful long time. Well, you might wonder how this happened, but thieves stole 900 engines out of a Kia factory over a 5-year period. Now, who wants to steal Kia engines? They're not that great anyways. But this was in India, in a Kia factory, so, anything's worth money in India. But the fact that they walked out with all these engines, you might wonder, how did they catch them? Well, they didn't actually catch them. What they did was they did an audit and found out they were 900 engines short. Now, this reminds me of something that my father's friend told us about years ago in Niagara Falls. This is during the Vietnam War. And they built the Huey helicopters just outside of Niagara Falls in Wheatfield, New York. My father's friend was a foreman. And there was a guy who worked there who had stolen an entire Huey helicopter, piece by piece. And he got caught because he had to steal the rotors, and the rotors are huge, right? Well, they caught him stealing the rotor, and they thought, what is this guy going to do with this rotor for the helicopter? Huge thing, right? So they followed him home, and he lived out in the country, and in his barn was an entire Huey helicopter that he had put together, but he had to steal the rotor so he could get it out. I don't know if he planned on flying it out or what, but he got caught too, stealing things too big. So, I think I'd rather get my hands on a Huey helicopter than a Kia engine, though. It'd be a lot more fun. Well, Volkswagen's at it again with lack of quality. Volkswagen is recalling over 40,000 vehicles now because, get this, the dash might just turn off. So you don't see anything. You don't know how fast you're going. You don't know if any warning lights are coming on. Lack of quality, people. Lack of quality. That's why I tell people, I don't have a single customer in the last 20 years who bought a Volkswagen, then bought another Volkswagen. They just said, eh. Now, when I was a kid in the 60s, those Beetles, they were indestructible as long as you changed the oil every once in a while. But now, they're high-tech cars, and the dashes can just turn off. They got a recall. Even though it's Volkswagen, this is a recall for 14 Audi models. Volkswagen owns Audi. They share all the technology, right? A lot of Audis are just expensive Volkswagens is what it comes down to, which is one of the reasons Audi's in big trouble, because you don't get much for it. And I've read articles where people say, why would anybody even buy an Audi today? What does it bring to the market that other car manufacturers don't bring? And the answer was nothing, really, other than expensive repairs and low resale value, right? Now, it includes everything from the A6 down to the SQ8, a whole range of them. So if you're worried you own one of these things, one, I feel sorry for you. But two, go to the government website. NHTSA. Just Google it. How can I check if I have a recall? It'll take you right to the site. Put in your VIN number. You'll see if it has. Now, their thing is that they got to do the software module over for the dash. Who knows if that'll fix it? Many times these software fixes don't fix anything. Then they got to replace a whole bunch of other stuff. They always try the software first because that doesn't cost them anything but reflashing things, right? If it's actually wrong, they would have to replace the dash in every single one of these, and it would cost them a small fortune. So listen to Scotty, don't buy Volkswagen products, you'll be better off. Well, GM is cutting jobs and idling the Canadian electric manufacturing due to what they call market demand, okay? Now, let's face the facts. GM is having a hellacious time trying to sell their electric vehicles. They're overpriced. They take forever to charge up. The whole electric infrastructure is kind of a joke anyways when it comes to vehicles. But these all-electric bright drop delivery vans are supposed to be a big deal for GM, and guess what? They can't give them away. You might have read the thing, it was a few months ago, that they had all these bright drop vans they brought to the United States, but they're sitting around on lots not doing anything in fields because nobody wants to buy them. People don't understand. A delivery van is a commercial vehicle. Companies make their living buying a bunch of them, delivering stuff. If they can't be something that they can depend on for long distance traveling, for efficiency, no one's going to buy them. Just like nobody's buying the electric Silverados, because guys who want a big pickup truck want something that can go anywhere, not get stuck, fuel it up and keep going. And a lot of people tow with trucks, right? Just like if you got a big delivery van, let's see, here's a real shocker. Delivery vans deliver stuff, so they're full of things. They're heavy, right? They carry all these goods. The more you put weight on an electric motor, an electric battery-powered vehicle, the less range it has. You've seen those Teslas that people have towed bass boats, whatever, and they find out that they got a range of less than 100 miles. That doesn't cut the mustard. Now GM's find out and they have to idle this plant. They say 6 months, who knows? Maybe it'll be 6 years. Maybe it'll be forever because nobody's buying the stupid things. Well, there's a new way they're working on to stop cars, and Brembo and Michelin are working strongly to try to get it to market. Now, Brembo, of course, makes brakes. Michelin makes tires. But strange marriages in any kind of industry. What they want to do is they want to have a completely computerized electronic braking system. Now, one of their ideas is to have an individual brake master cylinder that are hydraulic, but there's one master cylinder for each wheel, so there's 4 of them. 4 times the things to go wrong as they age. Well, what can you say? And also electronic controlled brakes that don't use hydraulics integrated together. Now you might think, why the heck would they use the old hydraulic system and then mix it with an electronic system? Well, it's called safety, because years ago Mercedes-Benz had some cars and they said, we're going to try electronic braking, where the calipers were all electronic to stop it. But there was also a backup hydraulic system because they knew these things were going to break. They did. And Mercedes no longer makes that system. They stopped over a decade ago because of failures of the electronics. Now, let me tell you something. The last thing on earth you want are brakes that are operated electronically only. Where are your brakes? They're on the wheels. When it rains, water flies from the wheels everywhere. If you live up north and they put a lot of salt on the road in the winter, that salt water, it eats up the electronics on the brakes. And do you want a brake system that's going to just fail? And of course, the electronic stuff costs a fortune. If you have regular hydraulic brakes with brake fluid, you step on it, it squeezes them, works perfectly fine, right? And if the calipers go bad, they're simple devices. You can get remanufactured ones for less than $100, right? You go electronic, it's going to be more planned obsolescence. Well, you know, we got to replace your brake electronic controllers. It's going to be $2,500, and then you're going to buy another car, right? It's all for planned obsolescence. Now, fine, great idea for video games, electronic controls of this and that, but they don't need to go that far. And if they all start doing that far, guess what? It's going to cost us a fortune. So do like the Mercedes-Benz customers did. When they found out about this electronic stuff, they stopped buying the electronic brake cars. Mercedes-Benz stopped making. Good solution. Of course, I'd never buy Mercedes in the first place, so well, everybody's worried about tariff this, tariff that. Well, one guy did a study and said, this is how much an iPhone would cost if it were made in the U.S. And he said that today's $1,500 iPhone, bad enough, would be close to $3,500 if you had to make them in the United States. You know, all the circuitry and all the chips and everything are made overseas. And the even more hilarious thing, They stated that it would take over 3 years and $30 billion just for Apple to move only 10% of its supply chain to the United States. That shows you how much money Apple is making on these iPhones and how they are ripping you off with the price of those things. I don't like them. I've never used one. I would never buy one. I'll give you a perfect example. One reason is because I'm a mechanic. I'm also cheap. The other ones cost less. But the Android systems, you take Bill Gates, when he started his software, he put auto repair software very beginning in his Microsoft software. He did that because he knew people were going to use these things to fix cars. He probably originally thought, well, you can use a laptop to fix cars, which you still can. But now, of course, we can use phones to help fix cars, right? Androids, the software for fixing cars fits right in because all of my expensive computers that work on cars, my $5,000, $10,000 car repair computers that professional mechanics use, those all use Android software. So, of course, it's going to work on an Android phone. On an iPhone, no. They have things that interpret them, but they're wrong half the time. You'll get things like you're looking at the coolant temperature sensor, and if you got the Android, it'll say it's 195 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, you put it in an Apple, when it's interpreted, a lot of times it'll say, well, it's minus 220 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Which is impossible, but they don't interpret them all that well. So, all this going to make the stuff in America? No, it's not going to come to fruition anytime soon if it would take them $35 billion and 3 years just to do 10% of their supply chain here in the United States. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.